Hi guys, how are you? Thanks again for joining our stream this week. So for those of you who don't know, my name's Christina. I'm a texture and look development artist at Rising Sun Pictures, which is located in Adelaide, Australia. I'm also a judge on the Rookies, so I was a judge for the Rookies Awards for 2020, and I'm also the host of this interview series. So this week we have Shir, and Shir is, she did really, really well in our 3D animation category. As you could see from her work I just showed before, it was really, really cool, really fun, and really well executed. So, Shir, thank you so much for joining me this week. I'm really excited.
Thank
to
you
hear
so
from
much
you.
for having me.
That's
I'm
all
excited
right.
to be here.
So, Shir, it's been really nice chatting to you so far. I'd love to hear a little bit about yourself, and I'm sure everyone would love to hear, yeah, just how you came into the 3D animation industry, and what you studied and what you're doing now.
Sure. So I'm actually originally from Israel, but I studied in the US at Ringling College. Um, I had like a little bit of a different background because of that. In Israel, after high school, we first go to the military. So I served as an officer for 3 years. And then I traveled a bit where I went to the Far East Asia. And that's actually where where I took a lot of inspiration from for my film.
Hmm.
I then became a flight attendant for 2 years,
Wow.
and then I came to school. Um, so I was a little older than a lot of other students, but I think that also allowed me to have a lot of, just experiences that I was able to put into
Life
my work.
experience.
Yeah. And that's it. I actually just graduated this year in May, with the pandemic and all.
Yeah.
I moved to LA and I'm working at Dreamworks currently as an animator.
Wow, that's quite a journey. um, I'm just a little, because I'm really curious. Your background's quite different to the others I've spoken to. Would you say that, I mean, coming through the military and approaching your studies at a bit of an older age, do you think, what benefits do you think that gave you?
Um, Well, it's funny because back home, this would be like a normal age, but
Yeah.
here I could really see the differences in how in my opinion, it benefited me a lot. I think there's no right way of doing things. Like for me, I was able to gain all of these experiences before, and when thinking of ideas for all kinds of assignments, not just for my thesis film, I was able to pull from a lot of
Yeah.
those experiences, and also just going through very stressful situations before. I feel like I was more prepared for the
Yeah.
stressful situation of school.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, and I could see like the same struggles with my friends at school that I had when I was in the military, for example. So they were at that point. So eventually, everyone goes through some kind of stressful time in their life. For me, it was just in a different
Yeah.
experience before that. Yeah.
Well, I imagine, yeah, that life experience and that maturity you would have gained from all of that probably would have given you a really good sense to, I guess, work hard and do really well.
I hope so.
um,
uh,
so, can you tell us just a little bit more about your studies? Yeah, where did you go to school and, yeah, well, what you learned?
so I studied computer animation at Ringling College of Art and Design, which is located in Florida. It's a 4-year program. The first year is more like basic stuff. So you're at least when I was there, they did change the program a little bit. But when I started it, it was mixed with other majors as well. We were just doing more figure drawing, perspective, stuff like that. The second year is when we actually got into animation and opened Maya for the first time.
Mm.
And then like through those second and third year, we kind of have small assignments where we create sort of a 10 to 12-second short. So we did go through all of the process of, going through the whole pipeline from storyboard, visual development to modeling, texturing, rigging, animating, everything. So when we get to the fourth year, and that's when we focus on our thesis film for the whole year, we do the pre-production work second semester of third year, but fourth year is when we actually create the film. We're a little more prepared because we had that experience of going through the whole pipeline before that. Um, yeah, that's kind of the education part of
Amazing.
things.
And
Yeah.
so, what made you decide to go into more of a stylized approach or a visual effects sort of approach? Is that what you were taught in school, or did you have the option to do different things?
So our school's kind of we lean more towards the cartoony style.
Mm-hmm.
It's less of a visual effects program. So coming into the school, people who go to Ringling usually know what what the program teaches. So I knew that I was getting into a program that has something a little more cartoony and stylized. I always loved animated films. It was like, it's a big part of me. I love entertainment. And I also love telling stories, like writing little children's books and little drawings and stuff. So it was a really fun experience to be able to bring that into an actual short. And I did want something that was I wanted my short to feel a little more, what's it called? Like speak to all ages.
Yeah.
So, it has that cute little factor as well with the characters and all, with my panda and everything. But also, it does, in the end of the day, it speaks about communication and communicating, even when words are not an option. Like, there are a lot of ways to communicate between people who are different.
That's amazing. And you nailed it. Like, your animation was just so full of character, and it was great. So I guess you're an animator now at Dreamworks. Tell us about that.
Well, I only started a few months ago. At first, we had some training for the few first weeks, and then we worked on some promotional materials for one of the feature films that's coming out. But on Monday, I'm starting to work on Boss Baby 2. So that will be really exciting, which is going to be released soonish. It's very exciting. I'm really happy to be there. I honestly owe a lot to like my mentor that really taught me everything I know, and the teachers at school. And I feel like I had a lot of I'm here thanks to a lot of people that helped me get here.
It's amazing. Shir, how are you finding working in the COVID environment? So obviously you're working from home right now. How long do you expect that to go for?
Well, no one knows how long, sadly. I think now I finally am feeling good, but it wasn't easy as someone who is in a foreign country, away from family and everything. In March is when they told all of the students to leave campus, and the internationals had nowhere to go. So eventually they let us stay, but they kind of moved us around on campus. So that's when March is when I packed my bags, and then after school, when school ended in May, I had to move again. So I stayed at a family in North California, and I was there for a little bit, and then I came to LA and I subletted at a friend's house for a little bit, and I finally moved to like an actual apartment where I could unpack all of my stuff. So it's not the best feeling when you don't really have where to go. But now that I have my own little home, it feels so much nicer, and I have like a roommate and I have some friends around.
Oh, that's good.
It makes a huge difference.
I'm glad you've a little bit more settled now. Sounds like it was quite stressful,
but it's much better now.
Good. So obviously working from home is a pretty big deal in itself, but do you find, if we talk about the actual work, the workplace and what's expected of you and things like that, how did you find the transition from studying into work? Do you think your school prepared you? And
I think school prepares us very well, like at least Ringling does. I'm very happy with the choice of going to Ringling, and for having the opportunity. I had people help me financially go to Ringling, so I wouldn't have been there without their help. So I'm really grateful for that, because yes, I think that they prepared us very well. But also I do feel like I'm very new and I have a lot to learn. But Dreamworks kind of knew that, taking me in. So I'm just happy that they were able to see potential in me and decide to invest in me. There are amazing artists, and everyone, even though we're working from home, so many people reached out like individually, and if you have any questions, just reach out, don't worry. So I feel like I always have someone to turn to if I need to. Yeah, people are just really nice.
Oh, that's
So, yeah.
amazing. I'm so glad.
Hmm.
Was there, I guess, the step up in the work quite large, or did you, yeah,
Uh, I feel like the amount of work is smaller than at school, but the quality needs to be higher.
yeah, of
And the
course.
stress of like, you want it to be higher, that the that the bar is way higher now. So the stress level is kind of, I guess, similar to school,
Yeah,
but I have free weekends and I have my
yeah,
evenings, which at school you don't have
of
that at all.
course.
So, so it's a lot nicer because I
Yeah.
also can balance my work with actual life and
Yeah.
not just work with more work.
No,
Yeah.
that's amazing. And I guess like I've spoken to a lot of people and they say that school was probably the hardest time because
Yeah.
that pressure of building a show reel, right? And then getting a job,
For
like it
sure.
pays off for sure, but
Yeah.
it's an awesome feeling to find work and be happy. So I'm really happy for you.
Thank you. It's
um,
really great.
yeah, so I'd love to hear. I've got your rookies entry up just playing in the background.
Awesome.
Um, I'd love to hear a little bit more about that. So, just to start with, what made you enter the rookies?
Well, I heard about the rookies just being like probably the best online competition. So when I finished my film, it was kind of an obvious thing for me to do because I did apply my film to different festivals and everything. And then there's the rookies, which is like a thing that everyone just does.
Yeah,
um, I I never thought that I would actually be selected. So it was very flattering, very exciting. I think that the level of work that I see there is just so great.
it's insane,
So
isn't it?
it's amazing. So I can't believe that my work is up there too. Very flattering. Yeah, I don't know. It's really cool.
No, you did really, really well.
Thank
Um,
you.
so I'd love to know just a little bit more about your rookies entry. So
Mhm.
you mentioned that this was your final project.
Yes. So this was my thesis film. For our thesis project, we actually create a depends, like 1 to 2 minute short.
Hmm.
Um, and so for like a year and a half, I created this film. Half a year of pre-production and then a year of production. Um, Sorry, what exactly would you like me to focus on?
Oh gosh, there's so much we could talk about. So the first thing is just maybe just how you came up with the idea and the story and that sort of thing, because that's always the hardest, I find.
Yeah, for sure. So um, we had to come up with multiple ideas to pitch to our faculty,
Hmm.
and this was one of those few ideas. And I was sitting in front of my desk, like in front of the paper, and just trying to think of what can I bring in, like what can I talk about. And that's where I went back to all of the experiences I had before school. So one experience that I remembered in particular that really stuck with me for years was when I was in China. I was backpacking alone, and I got on this 24-hour train ride. And like I would meet new people every day and you know uh, just automatically like get along with other travelers and find my way with them, and sometimes change my course just because I find some people that I get along with very well and stuff like that. But I got on this really long train ride and expected to see other travelers as well, but there were none. It was only Chinese people were there, and in China they don't really know very good English.
Hmm.
So my first reaction was, "Oh, okay, I guess 24 hours of being cooped up in my little bunk bed and just being alone and not being able to speak to anyone." And the way the train is built is like there are little booths, and it's 3 bunk beds on each side. So like each tiny booth has 6 people. So I climbed into my bed, got in, and about an hour in or so, the people sitting next to me reached their hand out with some food, and they didn't need words to explain what they were doing. They were just offering to share, and I accepted. And then they taught me how to play some card games and how to fold origami and try to just like, ask me questions without us being able to really understand each other. And after 24 hours of being with these people, we ended the train ride as friends, which is something that like was so the opposite of how I felt when I was getting on the train. And this is something that I kind of really wanted to, that feeling, that like ride was something I wanted to bring into the film. Communication in general is something that was important to me. I worked with nonverbal children, created art with them, and so communicating with, in other ways, sorry, sometimes without words, was something that I thought could be fun and interesting to bring in. And then I really based it on that one experience that I had in China. So that's where it came from.
Oh, no, I'm so interested by how, you just brought real life experience and created something from that. That's amazing.
Thank you.
No, that's incredible. So, I guess I'd love to know a little bit more about now, I guess, the process of creation, right? So you said you did all of this yourself, or all of the 3D work yourself?
Yes. So, thanks. At school, at Wrigley, we have the option to do a solo thesis where you create the film alone, or you can do two, or like a group of 2 or 3 people. So I chose to do my film on my own. But, I say I did on my own, but in the end of the day, like I had so many people guide me through it. We have amazing teachers, and I had my mentor, Leon Topaz, that really took me under his wing for the last year and a half of my studies. He's like a really close friend, and he gave me critiques all the time and things that really taught me. I learned how to animate, honestly, thanks to him. So yes, I did it alone, but I always had people that I turned to. My partner, he's a rigger, so any rigging question I would ask him. But yeah, I think it's awesome that we get to learn the whole pipeline and go through all of it. It really gives us a broad understanding of everything, and even getting into any studio, whether it was like I entered at Riot before Dreamworks and Hasbro as a generalist, or Dreamworks now. There was always an understanding of what happens in all of the different departments. So if you have an issue with a rig, you can explain yourself much better because you understand what's happening there. So I think it's very valuable for sure.
100%.
Yeah, and then the music and sound production, I did outsource that. So I hired an amazing composer, Daniel Markovich, and especially since my film is a nonverbal film, it was really, really important to have good music and good sound. Audio Brew did the sound for my film, and they were all awesome, great people to work with.
That's amazing. So in terms of audio and things like that, how was that created before or after your animation? Like how did you get it to just be like, you know what I mean? Like line up so perfectly. Yeah.
So when it comes to the little sounds that they make, for the panda, that was actually a journey because I didn't know what to do for him. Pandas sound very different from the way mine sounds in the film. Okay. They kind of have this little squeak, like, and no one knows what pandas sound like, and that sound would just be kind of weird, and I think it wouldn't really express what I was trying to express. So we had to come up with the actual sound. We do have a sound booth at school. I spent a lot of hours there, and my friend Ariel Song, she did like 50% of the sounds too. So we were just like there a million times and just iteration after iteration. And I actually didn't think we would end up using that as a final sound. I thought it would just be a placeholder, but we were never able to get anything better once we nailed that style. Yeah. So I just kept those sounds actually. When it came to music and stuff like that, I took a lot of music from like music that exists and like in Premiere just kind of put it all together. So when I handed it off to the composer, he could understand what part is supposed to express what emotion and what's the tone or style of the music, because I already had something that like sounds like what I want. And I took different pieces of different music, so it wasn't just like one thing. I think that really helped because I did have some kind of placeholder that we could build off of.
And did he or she, did they, once you'd finished the film, did they sort of go back to make sure that, you know, the timing was correct and the accents were in the right place? And like, do you know how like music really goes along with acting, if that makes sense? You sort of need the video to be finished before the music. Is that
true? I think we just kind of went back and forth so much that we ended up kind of finishing everything simultaneously. So it ended up being okay. I mean, there was a first pass that was there, but it wasn't the final pass. And then, you know, the second pass is a little, the animation is also a little more finessed. So it just kind of works together. I do know that a lot of times there will be suddenly like a change where the faculty will advise to cut out a shot or something. And then if you cut out a shot, that can really create this hole in the sound. And I do know that some students would sometimes have to send it back and actually readjust it and fix it. I was lucky to not have that happen. So yeah, it just worked out very well. Yeah.
And Shir, what did you find was the most challenging part of creating your project?
Actually, I really enjoyed creating my thesis film. It was my favorite project at school. Most challenging storyboarding. I don't like drawing very quickly. So I like creating stories and everything, but storyboarding is very hard for me. Like nailing the perspective by just doing it really quickly and all of that, that's the hardest aspect. I think nailing the story also, I had something very specific in mind, and you get all of these comments and ideas, and you know, we're still at school, so we're also trying to learn how to navigate those notes and when to take the notes, when to apply them, when not to apply them, how to apply them, because, you know, you get a note, you can solve it in so many different ways, and each way will take it to a different direction. I actually ended my junior year, where we're supposed to have our final story ready, I ended it with a story that I didn't like at all. So over summer, I thought it out again, and then senior year, when we got back to school and I could speak to some teachers and everything, I went back with those ideas and got like some feedback, made a whole new animatic, and then did another 2 iterations of that while we were already making our models and layout and all of that. But I ended up with a film that I'm very happy with. So it was like a little bit of a mess and doing stuff simultaneously, but I think it was totally worth it because I worked on something that I enjoyed. So yeah.
No, that's amazing. Everyone has like different challenges in these sort of things, right? Especially if you're doing something from start to finish. So obviously there's going to be something that you find challenging. So I suppose for someone entering the rookies next year, or for someone, you know, who is just about to start their final project, what advice would you give them?
If it comes to a film, a short film, something that I liked, that I really wanted to show when I submitted to the rookies is a lot of process. I didn't just put my film, I showed a lot of process work, whether it's the models that I created and a little bit of the background story. I don't know if that's something that helped. I don't actually know what impressed. So I think that's something that I would consider putting in. And when it comes to just creating your film, I think being true to yourself, you'll get a lot of different ideas and opinions, and it's really important to go back to the root of the note and not just the suggestions, because the suggestions can be very confusing if that's not where you're going with your story. But you need to understand why you're getting the note, and then take that note and try to solve it in a way that helps your story. yeah, like the reason I enjoyed senior year is because I was telling a story that I wanted to tell. So don't give up on that. It's so important. Yeah.
That's fantastic advice. And in terms of, I guess, working in the industry, applying for work and things like that, I'm sure there's some people out there who would love to, yeah, just get your opinion on, or some advice as to how to approach that.
Yeah. I think networking is so important.
Mm.
I think it's, yeah, you know, if you have, I, our school also brought a lot of recruiters to the school, to campus.
Mm.
And even if I wasn't able to get an interview, sometimes it was even like a lottery based kind of thing. I would always go, even if I'm not interested in the company, because I don't know, I'm not sure what that company is. I've never heard it before about it before. I still always went to the presentations and always shook the presenter's hand or recruiter's hand and asked questions and tried to stay in touch. I think also something that just helped me personally a lot was having that mentor that really, it made such a big difference. The minute I had someone that was willing to guide me and push me forward, things clicked so quickly and my level spiked really fast. And you know, at the end of the day, you get a job because you're, you know, you have good work that fits the studio. Also, another thing is don't get discouraged. A lot of times you'll apply to like 70 studios and the only one that will accept you, and I know a person that this happened to her, is like Disney or something. So sometimes the reason studios won't take you is because the specific show they're working on or the specific style that they create doesn't match exactly with the work you create. It has to be a two-sided thing. Like you and the studio have to be a good match for each other. So yeah, and just keep working, talk to people, reach out. I know it's not an easy thing for a lot of people, but you know, if you have a friend that is good at doing those things, then really like ask for advice and ask them to check your emails and like give you some feedback for like the LinkedIn message you're sending, like anything. It makes a huge difference, I believe.
No, that's really sound advice. It's often really daunting and it's really hard when you leave school and you're applying for work, and it's just such a different dynamic. So I'm sure people out there would really appreciate that.
For sure.
All right. Well, unless anyone in the audience has any questions, we might wrap up for today. So Shir, thank you so much once again for joining. I really loved hearing about, you know, your journey into animation and hearing a little bit about how you created it and things like that. So yeah.
Thank you so much for having me. It was really, I'm so excited that I was able to even be part of the rookies. So
no
really
worries.
cool.
And if you need anything, anything at all that we can help with, don't hesitate to reach out. We'll definitely keep in touch on ArtStation and LinkedIn and whatnot.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Thank you everyone for watching. See you next time. Bye.